questions, to please type them in the chat box to your right, and I will address them at the end of our program. Now let's look at the goals for today's webinars. I'd like to provide you with an opportunity to learn about the issues of conflict management and resolution, and to talk about how conflict affects the work environment. I want to help participants understand the consequences for not managing and resolving conflicts in the workplace and the consequences for breaking the rules. We'd like to offer you strategies that help empower employees to work together to create a positive and productive work environment, and to enable employees to want to work to serve in team leadership roles to support their respective organizations' conflict management and prevention strategies. Something is wrong here. Okay, I'm sorry. At the end of this program, participants will be able to recognize the areas in their personal and professional lives that need improvement, to develop strategies to accomplish their conflict management goals. Additionally, we want you to be able to talk openly to their colleagues about the various types of conflict and how it affects employees, clients, and others in the workplace. We want you to develop the power to report, oppose, and end disruptive conflict in the workplace, and have the power to support and assist in mediating a dispute in the workplace if it occurs. Okay, now that we all had a chance to meet and talk about some of the problems we all face, let's talk about the reasons why we're all here, and that is managing and resolving conflict. As I introduce this topic, there is some basic information that must be presented. For some, this information is new, and for others, it will be a review. In either case, we have a series of group interactions that will allow each of you to experience how better to manage conflict and resolve conflicts in the workplace if they occur. First, let's start by defining what conflict is. Conflict is that feeling or condition that occurs whenever you face an unpleasant situation created by you or someone else. The condition of conflict differs from just feeling upset in that conflict always presents at least two possibilities or choices, one or both of which may be agreeable or not agreeable. Conflict can show up in almost any circumstance in our lives and has been with us practically ever since we were born. A few generalizations about conflict can be stated here. Conflict can be internal, which means that it's felt only by us about an issue in our own mind. Conflict can be external, felt by us at least one other person. And conflict can be directed or aimed at you. Conflict can be indirect, not aimed at you personally, and conflict can be individual, it can be personal or shared by two people. And conflict can be shared by three or more people. Whatever kind of conflict we're talking about, it usually appears to the person or persons in conflict in two ways. First, as something perceived as unpleasant and which causes one anger, to be upset, guilt, or pain, or something one does, thinks, or says which causes him or her to be upset because of mixed feelings about it and the choices one feels he or she may have to make. So either kind of conflict can be engaged in directly, something done or said to you, or indirectly, something done or said around you which affects you and causes you to be upset. For example, an argument between you and your fellow office mate or your partner is an example of a direct conflict. An indirect conflict, on the other hand, might take the form of a disagreement with a company policy, even though the policy was written for all employees. The policy was not aimed at you personally, but it affects you. Conflict can also appear as an emotion. You probably have found yourself torn between two or more choices and suffered what may be called internal conflict. Thus, conflict can manifest itself externally, where there is some type of dispute with another person or persons, or internally, where the dispute is inside. Conflict can also hide behind other masks. As you will see later, removing masks is essential to conflict resolution. At this point, it's important if you can see the following general points about conflict. It can be active or passive. You either create it or you feel it when it is created elsewhere. It can be direct, done by you. It can be indirect, not done by you, but you feel it. It can be external, expressed in your reaction to outside circumstances. It can be positive or negative. It can be internal, a reaction to difficult choices which have to be made. It manifests itself in many ways and many places, and often wears the guise of anger, stress, upset, sadness, and even illness. Okay, now that we've discussed some of the general points regarding conflict, let's get down to the basics. Human beings see things often not as they are, but as who they are. I think we would all admit that even objective criteria can be altered by our own subjective views. If we are having a bad day, the ride to work seems longer, the traffic worse, and the car performance less than good. If we are having a good day, everything looks wonderful. Being aware of this human tendency towards subjective evaluation or judgment is essential to remember as we get further into what we will get into later. It's called the ironing out process. Well, there are certain physical truths to the world. The sun rises and sets, and water seeks the lowest level. What goes up must come down. For our purposes of this discussion and a process I will describe, nothing about the non-physical world and the people will be assumed by me. I have learned to assume nothing. Thus, if I seem to state the obvious, please bear with me. Simplicity doesn't mean unimportance. One of the ironies of life is that it's both simple. We breathe simply and naturally, often without even noticing it. And complex emotions, such as love, can wreak havoc on our being at the same time. The ironing out process, which we will get to shortly, operates in this fundamental paradox. We will see that the process is simple. The steps are easy. Execution of these steps can be awfully difficult at times. However, it takes a degree of persistence as well as commitment. Each step in this process is important, whether you judge it as simple or complex. Keep in mind, ground rule number 1 above, you see the world through your eyes. What may appear simple to you may be overwhelmingly complex to someone else. If it appears simple, relax and enjoy the lessons. Conflict is a normal part of life. This does not make it right, correct, or justified. As the kids would like to say, it is what it is. Humans can't help it. We are conditioned to conflict at an early age. The first time we were hungry and cried for food as an infant, we didn't get our way. We were in conflict. When several years later we wanted to stay up late at night and our parents said, go to bed, we were in conflict. When we fought with our brothers or our sisters or our friends over our toys, or when we wanted a certain book to read to us and they wanted another, conflict reared its ugly head. In fact, conflict appeared so early in each of our lives, it wasn't even recognized as such and was just accepted as something that was there. It might have been unpleasant or even fun, but it was and always will be a part of the human condition. What to do about it and what we think about it becomes a challenge and a goal for this class. Number 5, dealing with conflict involves 2 responses. One is automatic and the other one is learned. Psychologists, anthropologists, educators, and others will say by a very early age, perhaps as early as 7 years old, that we have learned most of what we're ever going to learn in life. And this early learning manifests itself in automatic response mechanisms to most situations we face, including conflict. If our early response was anger, fear, rejection, it will continue to be the automatic response to conflict throughout our lives unless and until another way of responding can be learned. Your automatic response to conflict is a part of who you are and contributes to your individuality, your distinct personality. I would not presume that I could take this away, nor would you want me to. The automatic response to conflict may or may not be alterable. The truth is that some people will not be willing and thus able to alter the response to conflict. In dealing with conflict, which means dealing with people, you must be prepared to confront the person who is truly stuck in his or her automatic response and is unwilling to even listen to all the wonderful, empowering magic you're about to lay on them. Do not despair. Even for these stubborn souls, conflict can be given a new look. Suppose you see yourself in the category of having an unalterable automatic response. The first question to ask is, why am I here? Next, you might ask yourself, who runs your life? A, you, or B, your thoughts, your judgments, your concepts, and automatic responses. If you are who I think you are, the answer is A, you. You run your life, and you have automatic responses. Great. Now, are you willing to assert your command over yourself? If so, the following affirmation just might help you. Quote, I am in command of myself. I recognize that I have thoughts, judgments, and automatic responses. Sometimes these are for my higher good. Sometimes they're not. However, down deep, it is I who runs the show, not my thoughts, judgments, and responses. If you could say the affirmation to yourself and get a feeling that you mean it, that's absolutely great. If you cannot say the affirmation or accept the thought with sincere meaning, perhaps it's time to take a good long look at yourself. Number 7, the learned response to conflict can impact our whole life. Your willingness to be open to a new way of dealing with conflict is bound to alter your way of seeing many things. You are about to give yourself a gift, an insight into the nature of humanness, which can change your outlook forever. Now, if that sounds a little scary, that's okay. There is no hocus pocus. In fact, as I said earlier, I will not reveal to you anything you don't already know. But I will hopefully present these old facts in a fresh and revealing perspective, which will alter how you deal with conflict in your life and can also alter your outlook on life in a positive, healthy way. Number 8, humans have certain styles of behavior which dictate, in great measure, the automatic response to conflict. Most observers of humanity, including virtually all professionals in human resources, now accept that each person has a personal style. Style dictates how a person reacts to virtually every situation in his or her life. In actuality, style refers to the manifestation of the reaction and not necessarily the reaction itself. Dr. Stuart Atkins refers to 4 styles or orientation into which all people fall. The first one is the supporting and giving, or it's also called the cooperative and dedicated kind of style. The second is conserving, holding, systemic, or analytical. The third is controlling, taking, persistent, urgent, and the fourth is adapting, dealing, tactful, and flexible. And people are characterized by Dr. Atkins according to their goal orientation. Thus, supporting, giving people are seen as trying to be helpful to prove their worth. The conserving, holding people like to go slow and be sure of what they do. Controlling, taking people are competent and seek results. Adapting, dealing people appear to be as trying to be popular to fit into the group. However, styles are categorized several general types, based on my own observation do appear. I would like to divide people as follows. Those who love a fight for the sake of the fight itself, not necessarily the need to win, they're just fighters. And then there are those who have an uncontrolled need to be right about everything. Those are the perfectionists. And then there's those who will compromise to make things less tense. They're the pacifiers. Then there's those who never take positions on anything. They're the neutrals. And finally, there are those who see life as an opportunity to live, which requires openness, and they are the realists. Now, understanding the other person's style as well as your own can be a powerful element in resolving conflict. However, it is not essential. I would suggest that a person's style gives an observer an extra tool in dealing with the situation at hand. This tool involves the psychology of relating to people of different types. When there is a breakdown in the resolution process, studying the dynamics of individual chemical emotional reactions, that is to say, their personality and their style, takes on greater importance. For example, the person you are in conflict with could have the kind of style which manifests itself in total stonewalling. Reaching him or her with a view toward resolution will be impossible without knowing how to deal with his or her style. Okay, now that you've had a feel for the background of conflict in your life and the lives of people around you, I think it's about time that you learn a very practical step-by-step method for resolving conflict using 7 simple steps, and this is called the ironing out process. The first is to remove all masks. The second step is identify the real problem. The third step is give up a must-win attitude. The fourth step, develop several possible solutions. The fifth step, evaluate options and select a solution. The sixth step, communicate in a manner to be received. The seventh step, acknowledge and preserve the value in the relationship. Let's take these one by one. Step 1, remove all masks. As you have seen from earlier discussion, no conflict can be resolved unless people and not their pretenses show up. Sincerity is the ideal mindset for conflict resolution. It may be that sincerity is difficult, if not impossible, because of the particular situation in which you find yourself. Sincerity is not easy to muster when one is either in an offensive or defensive posture, as most of us are when we find ourselves in stressful circumstances. If we cannot achieve sincerity, then at least we must aim for authenticity. Being authentic means not hiding behind your mask. It means showing up as yourself. Sometimes we don't even know who we are at the moment of conflict. In some cases, we may have been living in inauthentic life for a considerable period of time because of other things going on in our lives, including roles we play at work or in our relationship. In these cases, finding the authentic you may not be very easy. It can even require outside help in the form of friendly conversation, loving advice, or professional intervention. To be able to maximize the potential of this process, and especially this step, you must be prepared to do whatever it takes, including getting outside help if necessary to be present in the process as yourself. Number 2, identify the real problem. A conflict shows up in many ways. It manifests itself in many incarnations. You must somehow look through all the garbage to find out what is really at issue to be able to resolve the problem. Thus, at step 2 in the process, you are asked to identify the real problem. You might be saying to yourself, that's easy for you to say, but how do you do it? Sometimes finding the true problem takes real effort. Remember, resolution of conflict cannot be achieved until the process can address the true problem. If a resolution is really what you want, it is well worth the peeling away of the onion skin layers to find the problem underneath the problem. As we have seen, people are often unable or unwilling to acknowledge what really is the problem. Again, identifying what is at stake will help to get at the truth of the conflict. Step 3, give up a must-win attitude. Winning a conflict is an oxymoron like cruel kindness. Conflicts are not won, they are resolved. Must-win attitudes belong to players who never, ever really win at life. They may sound like winners and even occasionally look like winners, but in fact, these players compete so hard all the time that a good part of their life passes them by. When things get tough and problems and conflicts arise, the must-win players become the position players. They are the ones who will go to the wall to defend a position and will go down screaming and often take as many people as possible with them when they go. I think we all know some of those kind of folks. So resolving conflicts from a must-win position is virtually impossible unless you're dealing with people who are willing to let you win in order to get even with you sometime in the future. If you are dealing with people like this in conflict, the conflict will never truly be resolved because by their very nature, they are harboring resentment and never forget their victimization at the hands of the winner. So be alert, because these people are the type who are often trying to get even with you someday. Remember, no conflict can ever be considered resolved if a party wants to get even someday.
Harold?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Can you please check your chat window? We have one question.
How do you get to see them, your point of view? We will get to that.
Yeah, they don't understand how do I get them to see my point of view. That is the question.
The question will be answered once they get to the end of this process. You can get people to see your point of view, but first I want to take you through all these steps. Then it'll become clear how to get somebody to see your point of view.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, you can continue now.
Does it make it clear for our attendee?
Yeah, I'm sure it's clear for all our attendees. Yeah, you can continue now.
At the end, why don't as I said earlier, if they could hold their questions till the end of the program and then ask them, then I think it would become clear for them, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Step 4, develop several possible solutions. If life were certain and the results preordained in some way, then there would only be one solution to get to each and every conflict. But reality is not like that, and most situations can go in a variety of directions. It is up to the players to determine from any number of possibilities how the conflict will play out. Ignoring the problem, giving in to the other side, or resisting him or her tooth and nail, which eliminates possibilities for peaceful resolution. The ironing out process requires development of several resolution choices for a good reason. There is a school of thought which is quite popular these days which says that you should pick a target or objective, focus on it, and go all out to get it to get it out. This philosophy also often views development of choices or fallback positions as distracting from the determination to obtain a result. When this kind of determination and commitment are required for some things in life and are certainly helpful to the decision to resolve conflict, the specific elements available for a resolution must come from choices. The alternative to developing choices is an all-or-nothing mindset. All-or-nothing players end up with nothing far more often than they end up with it all. Number 5, evaluate your options and then select a solution. Emphasis in this step of the process is on agreeing that choices of potential solutions are desirable. Developing choices and evaluating them for a particular situation are essential to a resolution. If we can agree that all-or-nothing attitudes invite confrontation and are blocks to conflict resolution, it is clear that another approach, one which looks at choices or options, are necessary. Having several possibilities also increases your own chances for finding a meeting ground for resolution. Looking for several approaches forces one out of positional thinking, which favors usually one and not several approaches. Elimination of positional thinking has been shown to automatically support possibilities of resolution. The very process of developing several different possible solutions forces a testing of the sincerity of the parties. In fact, it has been shown that parties who are sincere in their desire to resolve conflict will develop more than one possible resolution. Number 6, communicate in a manner certain to be received. We have talked about communications a couple of times today, and it does not take a genius to realize that the greatest idea has no value without a communication of that idea to someone else. In virtually every course and book written on the subject of human relationships, communication is treated as the ultimate tool for positive possibilities. And this is no less true for the ironing it out process. In fact, as I had said earlier, communication is the essential tool. Without the ability to effectively inform the other side of your desire and proposal to resolve conflict, there will never be an end to the struggle at hand. All of your wonderful work in coming up with choices and eliminating positions in what's at stake for you and in removing your own mask will all be wasted if you're not willing or able to take the results of this good work and communicate what is going on to your wife, your lover, your boss, your co-worker, your child, or other conflict opponent. Thus, while communication appears as step 6 in the process, it clearly ranks as the top of all the steps because it is the way by which each step is conveyed to the other party. Number 6, communicate in a manner certain to be received. Communication in this context means conveying a message to the other person or group through verbal, written, or other means. In the case of conflict resolution and problem solving, communication surely takes place. However, it is often filled with anger, lack of clarity, and an unwillingness to move from talk to action. To effectively communicate, one must effectively listen. You cannot reach an audience you cannot perceive. Thus, the art of active listening becomes a key element in the communication process. In fact, active listening is part of the function of a third-party conflict resolver. Only when someone feels in his or her heart that his or her message has been received can he or she listen to your message. It is human nature. You just cannot listen to someone else when you sense they have not heard you. On the other hand, when there is a feeling that you have been truly and completely heard, you have a sense of completeness which allows you to be open to hearing someone else. Number 7, acknowledge and preserve the value in a relationship. Resolving conflict is all about preserving relationships, and this is particularly true on a job. If that was not so, then people would not try to resolve conflicts. Disputes could remain, fester, and destroy any company, home, or relationship. But as pointed out earlier, people do want to help each other and be in a good relationship. This is true even when differences arise which cause conflict. As mentioned earlier, we are learning how to resolve conflict, not eliminating it or teach one of the parties how to win. Resolving conflict by its very nature implies preservation of the relationship. Granted, a serious, deeply felt dispute will take its toll, but where there is a willingness to resolve, and that's the key, the willingness to resolve, there exists a strong chance for preserving the relationship and the underlying nature of the relationship. One of the key benefits of a gentle process for resolving disputes is that the parties involved have a greater chance of retaining the relationship than if the traumatic forces of legalistic or violent confrontation are brought to bear on it. The ironing it out process requires, as the final steps, that parties acknowledge each other and make every reasonable attempt to look at the value of the relationship and how important that may be, even in the context of the conflict at hand. Step 7, acknowledging and preserving the value in the relationship, applies equally to disputes between labor and management, suppliers and customers, or groups of employees. Well, folks, I would like to congratulate you. Why? Because you are well on your way to resolving conflicts on your job, but also in your relationship with various people. Step 7 allows for completion and acknowledgement. It not only handles the past, but also is a doorway to the future. Conflicts come and go, but it is in relationship that one finds true value in life. In addition to the ironing it out process, I would like to go just a little bit further and provide you with 13 workplace conflict resolution strategies. First one, stay calm, be cool. Thomas Jefferson said, nothing gives one so much advantage over another as to remain always cool and unruffled under all circumstances. The thing that leads to conflict is escalation. What starts people escalating is their anger. Most of us stop listening to understand as we get angry. Instead, we start listening in order to argue back. Remaining calm is essential for performing these tasks. To remain calm, it helps to look at the big picture. If you think about it, most disputes get resolved eventually. So when conflict inevitably happens, it is helpful to stop and think that, chances are, it's going to be resolved eventually. Number 2, listen to understand. Now, picture a dispute in which you were recently involved. Maybe it was this morning with your husband or your wife leaving your house, or with a coworker or a client, or even with a family member. And as you replay that experience, ask yourself how much listening was going on. My bet is that any listening was only being done to formulate an argument back to prove your point. I have to admit I do this a lot with my wife. So when most of us get into a dispute, the first thing we want to do is stop listening. The only way to settle this dispute or to solve any kind of problem is to listen carefully to what the other person is saying. Number 3, accentuate the positive. It's important to find some commonalities or create them between you and the person on the other end. It is helpful and empathetic to say, oh boy, I know what you are going through. I've had a similar situation like this just recently. Let me see what I can do about this. This serves to normalize the situation. It tells someone that he or she is not the only one who has gone through this, and that he or she's reaction to it is normal. And that calms people right away. Number 4, state your case tactfully. The key here is to help people to understand your perspective on things without making them defensive. To the extent that you can disarm them, they will be more able to hear what you are really saying. And a couple of tips are to own what is yours. Apologize for what you or your team did wrong and do it first. This enables them to hear what you have to say next. Also, try not to state issues of differences as fact. Leave a little bit of room for the benefit of the doubt. Do not state everything as a fact. It's a fact this, it's a fact that. No, they're not going to hear you. Attack the problem and not the person. Your points will be heard more clearly if you can depersonalize your comments and point only at the issue. Rather than accusing people of always messing up, it's better to say, we have to take a closer look at why this keeps happening. In most statements that we make in a dispute, we are fighting with our own anger and are tempted to put a zinger into the point that we are trying to get across. You will be heard better and improve your chances of resolving the issue the way you want if you can catch yourself and take the zingers out. Obviously, this is easier with email and requires great concentration when you're in a face-to-face disagreement. Avoid the blame game. Assigning blame is only helpful in one instance in problem solving, if you assign it to yourself. Generally speaking, figuring it out whose fault something is does not do any good if the goal is to fix the problem. It is a diversion and sometimes a costly one because if a person feels blame, he or she often checks out of a conversation. The trick is resolving clashes. The trick to resolving clashes is to focus on problem solving rather than pointing fingers. Focus on what you and others can do to solve the problem and make it better, and it will be behind you before you know it. Focus on the future and not the past. Rather than focusing on what went wrong or who should have done what, the secret to dispute resolution is to treat it like problem solving and focus on what can be done to resolve the problem. I'll say that again. The secret to dispute resolution is to treat it like problem solving, and focus on what can be done to resolve the problem. Once that is done, companies can look to the past tense to analyze what went wrong and how to improve quality control and efficiency. However, when there is a problem that has an angry customer or a disgruntled employee, the solution is all that anyone is interested in. Learn to ask the right kinds of questions. If you want someone to answer you with real information rather than just arguing with you, it's best to give them a little information first. For example, since I don't have a copy of the PO in front of me, it would be helpful, it would help me to investigate this if you could tell me a little bit more how the colors on your orders are described. Telling them why you're asking puts your intent first, so they don't have to guess at it. This questioning style tells a person that you are trying to do your job and figure out some facts before to get to a solution. By delivering your request in a poised and attentive tone, it makes the person you are asking less defensive and gives you more of what you really want. Number 9, learn to pick your battles. It's also important when asking questions to remember to pick your battles. Human nature makes us want to be right, even to the point of being defensive or arguing points that do not matter in the scheme of things. It is even fair game to ask the other person, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this issue to you? If an issue is a 5 to you and a 9 to the person you are talking to, it is best to give the point up and use the same skill when the item is really important to you. After all, business relations are, like my brother's future father-in-law once told him about marriage, it's a 60-60 proposition. Most people think it's supposed to be 50-50, but the truth is, when adjusted for each person's perspective on how much they give and how much they receive, it really is 60-60. Another marital proposition is also helpful here. Do you want to fight or do you want to be happy? Do you want to fight or do you want to be happy? My pastors told me when I got married 30-something years ago, he said, Harold, I got 2 words for you. And I said, yes, Pastor, what's that? And he said, yes, dear. So I've learned 30-something years ago that I'd rather be happy. Link offers. Car salesmen do this all the time. They ask you what you want. They ask you what you want your monthly payment to be, and then they set the price of the car and the interest rate on the loan or the lease so they can match your monthly payment. Essentially, it's a way of saying, I can either do this or that, which would be better for you. It really is just sales skills, giving people the choice between 2 positives so that they feel as if you are trying to help them. Number 11, be creative and brainstorm. Remember that everything is negotiable. Feel free to think outside of the box in order to expand the pie. Make it so that no idea is too far-fetched. Be creative in resolving. Be creative with resolutions, and sometimes they take a little longer, but they can yield a true win-win for you. The best solution to a dispute is to get more business out of it. As such, one common problem-solving technique is to propose that instead of a cash refund, giving clients a deep discount on future orders in order to show what a good job you are capable of doing for them. Number 12, be confident. You can do this. You can do this. Many people are afraid of confrontation and shy away from it. I have taught everyone from housewives and high school grads to college presidents and CEOs of companies how to do these simple steps, and believe me, the process works. All you have to do is follow the steps. Furthermore, you must do this. Now that you have these tools, it's imperative that you do something about it. You owe it to your customers, your employer, your husband, your wives, your boyfriend, your girlfriends, your coworkers, and you owe it to yourself. Finally, celebrate agreement. This kind of negotiation is a hard process. It requires two people to remain in an uncomfortable, potentially confrontational position for a long time to rebuild trust and to be creative while trying to figure out the best rather than the fastest solution. Once it's accomplished, both you and the person you are talking to deserves a good pat on the back. There's nothing wrong with going to lunch or dinner to celebrate the resolution of a dispute that could have been destructive, but that ended with a win-win solution for everyone, and everyone was satisfied. This is an important process for avoiding more serious disputes, such as lawsuits, and losing hard-earned customers. Congratulate yourselves and your partner in this solution. After all, nothing is more important than your company and its survival. Nothing is better for your company's survival than learning to make peace and resolve the inevitable disputes that will arise. Learn to cultivate peace with customers, suppliers, employers, labor, and management. Utilizing these tools takes patience and generally requires changing old behaviors. However, if people are on the front lines in human resources, customer service, and client relations, use simple tools such as these. They can resolve most disputes at that level, keeping them out of the legal department and especially out of court. Well, we had the opportunity to learn about conflict resolution strategies and how to discuss how conflict affects everyone, our fellow employees, our clients, our friends and families, and us. And as a final activity, I would ask you to make a commitment today to take today's interactions to your own work situation. And as we conclude, it's clear that conflict is going to occur in our workplace and in our personal lives. And it takes its toll physically, emotionally, psychologically, and financially. Conflicts must be managed and hopefully resolved. But resolving conflicts in your life doesn't end with this training. In fact, managing and resolving conflict begins when the session ends, when you walk out the door. Yes, preventing, managing, and ending workplace conflict requires federal and state laws and effective company policies and procedures. But most important of all, resolving conflicts requires you and you alone. It takes you to make the work environment a positive place where men and women can work together harmoniously and cooperatively. It takes you to face disruptive conflicts head-on if it occurs. It takes you to be a part of the solution and not part of the problem. It takes you to join forces with your colleagues to help keep your organization's workplace free of needless conflict. It takes you to be committed and responsible. So remember the wise saying as you work to manage and to resolve conflicts on your job or in your lives. If it's to be, it's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to me. I close with these words. Coming together is beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Thank you. And now I would like to open it up for questions. Can we open it up for questions?
Yeah, Harold?
Hi.
Yeah, hi. I'm gonna unmuting all the lines. If you have any question, you can ask to presenter. So I unmuted all the lines. Hello, Mike. Hello. Um, just give me. Hello, Mike. Are you there? Yeah, Harold. I got one question. I'm sending you through your chat window.
Okay. The question is, we can't agree on anything. What can we do? Is that the question?
Harold, this is the question.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
It would help me if you could unmute the line so I could talk to the person better, so I could better advise.
Okay, give me a minute. Hello everyone. Are you able to listen me? You can ask your question to Harold.
Hi, Mike. Do you have a question for me?
Harold, I don't know. Maybe some problem is there from there. Some problem is there. I don't know. You can continue. No problem.
Hello?
Hello. Hello, Harold.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't know. They are not responding. So you are continue with your slides. Some issue he is facing with mic problem. Just now he sent a message to me. He is having some mic problem, so he not able to talk with you.
All right. Well, do this. Tell him, have him send his questions to you. You could forward the questions to me. Tell him to send me his telephone number. I'll call him and talk to him.
Okay, just give me a minute. Give me a minute, Harold.
Okay.
Yeah, Harold. Actually, Mike has sent me a question that he is having one question. Actually, he is not able to talk with you. He is having some mic problem. So, can you able to answer if I tell you like that, or shall I drop you through your chat window?
Tell him to type his answer into the chat window. and I'll try to answer it for you.
Actually, he's having question. I was having an argument with someone at work and they bit me. What should I do?
Say that again?
I was having an argument with someone at work and they bit me. What should I do?
I asked him what is the issue, and how can you resolve the problem?
Yeah, if he is having an argument with someone at work and that person bit that person, then what should they do?
Oh, they bit him. Oh.
Harold, what happened?
Biting is a criminal. Tell him that biting is a criminal act. He should report it to his supervisor and let the company know that he's been assaulted.
Okay, Harold, thank you. I don't have any more question on my chat window. So you can continue ahead.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So you are winding up the session now?
Yeah, I'm finished. Yes.
Okay, Harold. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you everyone for cooperating with us and joining us with this webinar. If you have any more question, you can still send it to our email ID, that is webinar@izonaskills.com. So with this, we will going to end up the session. Thank you, Harold. Thank you once again, everyone. Have a great day.
All right, have a good day. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.